9-year-old Asha Degree disappears from her home north of Shelby.
I woke up at 6:30 this morning to get her up for school, and she wasn't in her bed.
Asha's mother, Akila, last saw her little girl when she tucked her into bed Sunday night. As the hours pass, the family's shock turns to anguish, and a mother lives the pain only parents of missing children know.
She's my baby. That's all I know to say.
We just hope and pray that we'll get her back safe. That's all. We just want her back. Because she's a very sweet little girl and she's real special.
Welcome back to Parke Jones. It's a case that has haunted North Carolina for over 2 decades. The disappearance of 9-year-old Asha Degree isn't just heartbreaking, it's puzzling. A shy, sheltered girl vanishes in the middle of the night, not from a big city, not from a dangerous environment, but from the safety of her own home, and by all reports, a loving home. And yet, the evidence suggests Asha left on her own, packing a bag, walking into a storm, and eventually vanishing along a rural highway in the early morning hours on Valentine's Day. There haven't been any answers for 24 years, but recent developments are bringing us closer than ever to finding out what happened to Asha Degree. Asha Jakilla Degree was born August 5, 1990. Asha was shy, sweet, and incredibly smart. She was even the star point guard for Falston Elementary's girls basketball team. Asha lived in a quiet neighborhood in Shelby, North Carolina with her parents, Harold and Aquila, and her brother, O'Brien. He was a year older than Asha, and they were best friends. The Degrees were a tight-knit family. Harold and Aquila raised their children with structure, love, and support. Valentine's Day weekend for the Degree family was mostly a typical one. That Friday, February 11th, Asha and O'Brien had the day off from school and spent the day at their aunt's house. Later that evening, they went to basketball practice. That Saturday, February 12th, was game day. Asha was the star point guard for her basketball team and fouled out the game. The team lost, and it was their first loss of the season. She was visibly upset and crying. She even insisted that the referees cheated. However, after a conversation with Aquila, she bounced back and sat in the stands to watch O'Brien play his game. Later that evening, Asha went to a sleepover at her cousin's house. The girls stayed up late watching Soul Train and Showtime at the Apollo. That Sunday, February 13th, was the Lord's Day. Harold, Aquila, and O'Brien picked up Asha from the sleepover and went to morning service. After church, they spent time at a family member's house, and before they left, Asha's grandmother gave her a small gift or candies to celebrate Valentine's Day. Back at home, Harold, Aquila, and O'Brien turned on the TV and spent time together while Asha went to sleep. She was still a bit tired as she had stayed up late the night before at the slumber party. At around 8:30 p.m., a thunderstorm woke Asha up, so she went into the living room with the rest of the family. Around 9 p.m., Aquila began preparing the bathroom for the kids to take their showers, when suddenly the power cut out due to a nearby car accident. Harold and Aquila lit kerosene lamps and candles throughout the home to bring in some light. Aquila then sent the children to bed and planned to get them both showered in the morning. The following day was Valentine's Day, and it was also the Degrees' 12th wedding anniversary, so Harold decided to leave the home around 11:30 p.m. to make a quick run to the store and pick up some candy. When he returned home, he fell asleep on the couch. Aquila woke up around 12:30 a.m. once the power turned back on. She went into the living room and woke up Harold to remind him to turn off the kerosene lamps and candles before bed. Harold then spent the next 2 hours in the living room, and before going to bed, he checked in on Asha and O'Brien, who shared a room, and saw that they were both sleeping peacefully. Harold then went to bed. Sometime during the night, O'Brien recalled hearing Asha move around in the room. He figured she went to the bathroom. For the most part, it was a normal night for the Degrees, except for the fact that Asha left the house and began walking down Highway 18 carrying nothing but her book bag. The next morning, February 14th, 2000, Aquila woke up at 5:45 a.m. and started the kids' shower. But when she went into their room, O'Brien was there, Asha was not. Her bed was unmade. No coat, no hat, her book bag and house key were also gone. She woke up Harold. He figured Asha was across the street at her grandmother's home, but when they called and found out she wasn't there, panic set in. Aquila ran out the house and ran up and down the street screaming Asha's name, waking up the neighborhood. Harold then called 911 at 6:39 a.m., and 6 minutes later, Sheriff Dan Crawford and his officers arrived on the scene. In walking around the home, there were no signs of forced entry, and inside the home, there were no signs of foul play. Officers, volunteers, and a search and rescue team began searching the area looking for Asha. As the investigation began, tips with sightings of Asha rolled in.
9-year-old black female missing. You travel this way?
With a photo of 9-year-old Asha Degree in hand, deputies stopped driver
How you doing today?
after driver looking for any information. It doesn't take long for their roadblock to pay off.
I seen her about this time yesterday morning, just below this road that cuts off right back here. Has anybody talked to you? I called her.
Richard Garrison thinks he saw Asha yesterday on his morning commute to Charlotte.
I thought it was kind of peculiar, a kid that young. And I started to stop, and I thought, I didn't know what the situation was. And I got kids that age, and I, like I say, I started to stop. And I thought, well, hell, I might just go on and go, I wish I would have now.
According to a trucker, he saw a small girl walking alone in the rain at 3:30 a.m. She was wearing a white dress, white sneakers, and carrying a book bag. He turned around to check on her 3 times, but she ran into the woods. Roughly 45 minutes later, Roy Blanton, a former law enforcement official, noticed a small person walking near the intersection of Highway 18 and 180. He thought it was a woman leaving a domestic violence situation in the middle of the night. He didn't realize he was looking at a 9-year-old girl. The Degree family confirmed Asha took some items with her. Some candy, clothes, and her Tweety Bird purse, but no jacket, no flashlight, and it was pouring rain. Now, you have to ask, why would a 9-year-old girl scared of dogs and thunderstorms leave in the middle of the night on foot? 2 days later, volunteers checked a shed about a mile from where Asha was last seen. Inside, they found candy wrappers, a green marker, a yellow hair bow, and a photo of an unknown little girl.
And now Raleigh thinks Asha might have been even closer.
So the little girl's things were laying, behind the tractor. They were just a small yellow hair bow, plastic, with a little teddy bear on it.
We found some items we feel like are consistent with items that she was carrying on her person.
That's scary. We had just found a little hair bow and a pencil and a magic marker.
As insignificant as it may be to them, it could be very important to us.
And now Raleigh Turner wonders if the clues to Asha's whereabouts had always been here, if only someone knew where and what to look for, and if there's still time to keep looking.
I don't want them to give up. I want them to find her if they can.
The girl in the photo is a mystery within a mystery, and to this day, she has never been identified publicly, but online groups believe that they have identified her. Regardless, no one in Asha's family recognized the girl in the photo, but the other items, definitely Asha's. Even more unsettling, bloodhounds couldn't catch her scent. Maybe the rain washed it away. Or maybe she wasn't alone. And after 3 days, the official search was suspended. Based on the evidence, police believe that Asha left the home willingly and that she planned this in advance. But why would she run away? She didn't fit the profile of a runaway, and she was only 9 years old and came from a loving home. Police called in a child interviewer to come in and talk to Asha's friends and O'Brien, but they came up with nothing. Now, over the years, armchair detectives have played around with several theories. Asha was lured out the home by an adult who pretended to be the girl in the photo. The next theory was that Asha was lured out the home by a trusted adult. They also toyed around with the theory that Asha wanted to buy her parents a gift for their wedding anniversary. Or Asha was influenced by The Whipping Boy, a book she read in school where the main character runs away in the dead of night. Or Asha was upset about the basketball game. And lastly, the theory that her parents were involved in the disappearance. Now, given the circumstances of her disappearance, you can say anything is possible, But to say that the Degrees were involved in the disappearance of their own daughter is a reach and hurtful. They cooperated with police since day one and have continued to do so for over 20 years.
Just before noon, Harold Degree walked out of the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office after he and his wife took polygraphs. But investigators stress the Degrees are not suspects in their daughter's disappearance.
There's nothing in the investigation at this point that would involve any member of the family. Can we totally eliminate anybody at this point? No, because we don't know where the little girl is. We don't have her back safe.
Asha's father says he had no problem taking the test.
No, I understand. There ain't no frustration. No.
Late May 2000, the Degrees put up a billboard in a spot where the trucker first saw Asha at 3:30 a.m. The investigation continued, and for months, police still didn't have any answers. But then later that summer, they received a confession from Baron Ramsey, a former classmate of Aquila's. According to Ramsey, he and a friend finished up a street pharmaceutical deal and accidentally hit Asha with their car. They then pulled her into the truck bed and took a fishing trip out to Moss Lake where they dumped her body. Police investigated this claim for months, even draining the lake twice, but they didn't find any evidence to substantiate Baron's story. For over a year, the police continued to investigate, and then 18 months into the investigation, they got a major break in the case. Asha's book bag had been found.
Any other day, Terry Fleming may see a bag of trash or debris on a job site and not think anything of it.
There was an item laying over here that I'd dodged all morning.
He figured it was something somebody discarded, maybe a dead animal, something he didn't want to see.
When I moved it from this location to that location, it didn't bust open, and that was strange to me.
For some reason, a reason Terry can't explain, he decided to see what was inside.
I told my men, this don't look right. I didn't feel right about it.
Terry won't say what he found for fear it would jeopardize the investigation, but he says he jotted down a name that was on one of the items, put the bag in a safe place, and then left for the night.
Next morning on my way to look at a job, I was explaining to my wife, and she just threw both hands over her mouth, oh my God.
His wife recognized the name. It was the name of that 9-year-old girl that she'd seen plastered all over the television and newspapers for 18 months. Asha Degree.
Just put cold chills all over me, still is right now,
Terry doesn't know why after all this time he found the bag or what made him open it. His only explanation is it wasn't his doing at all.
The good Lord works in mysterious ways, and if this is his way, I'm just a tool to help him get done what he wants done.
The book bag was found 26 miles from her home in a double-bag trash bag. Law enforcement didn't share what was in the bag, but they made an ominous statement. They said that 90 to 99% of the contents of the bag belonged to Asha. Then, in 2016, the FBI announced that they were looking for a dark green 1970s Ford Thunderbird or Lincoln Mark IV with rust around the wheels. They believed that the car was occupied by 2 people on the night of Asha's disappearance.
New at 5, a major break in a cold case. Today, the FBI released new details and a new witness in the case of Asha Degree, the 9-year-old who vanished from Shelby 16 years ago. FBI agents want your help identifying a car that could hold the key to solving this heartbreaking mystery. Investigative reporter Michelle Bowden is live tonight. Michelle, what's the new information?
Yeah, hey, Fred, this is actually not a cold case. This is a very active case. This is the brand new poster that the FBI just released. A new witness who has come forward claiming he may have seen her getting into this car the day she disappeared, a very distinctive car. Now, new details from the FBI about the car that may have picked her up after a new witness recently came forward.
They believe that they may have seen someone matching Asha's description get into a distinctive vehicle the morning that she was seen walking on Highway 18 in the Shelby area.
These are photos similar to what the witness described, a dark green 1970s, either Lincoln Mark IV or Ford Thunderbird with rust around the wheel well.
The eyewitness we've done many interviews with. Obviously, we've done our own investigative steps with that information.
For 24 years, there were no answers in Asha's case. and at times it seemed like we would never know what happened to her. But in September 2024, investigators searched properties and an assisted living facility in Shelby, Vale, and Charlotte. All properties were tied to the Dedmond family.
Now to Cleveland County, where representatives from multiple law enforcement agencies are conducting a widespread search as we speak.
And in the last 30 minutes, we have obtained video of a green car. Here it is, being towed away from the scene there in Shelby. It is an older green car, we must say, is similar to one identified as the car of interest in the disappearance of Asha Degree, a 9-year-old girl who went missing back in the year 2000. If you've lived here any time at all, you recognize that name because we cover it every single year on the anniversary. WCNC Charlotte's Richard Devane is in Shelby with the very latest.
Yeah, good afternoon. We're here in Shelby where authorities are telling us that basically the search is over. Those federal agents and all those other agents that were swarming that house have left that location, but they do say this morning that their investigation continues. And as that investigation continues, authorities aren't saying much about the large-scale investigation that was conducted over the last few days right here in Shelby. This morning, we went to the house where dozens of local, state, and federal agents swarmed this and another house for the last 2 days. It's on this man, Roy Lee Dedmonds' property. He nor a woman he was with at the time wanted to speak on camera other than to just wave and tell us to have a good day. Police serving those search warrants on his property, canvassing the area, and collecting evidence. The evidence including this car, which matches the color of a car that police told us about back in 2016.
Search warrants revealed that investigators believed Asha was unalived and secured the warrant after DNA samples from Anna Lee Dedmond and Russell Underhill were linked to items in Asha's book bag. Anna Lee was only 13 years old at the time of Asha's disappearance, and her two sisters were 15 and 16 years old. Therefore, investigators believed that their parents, Roy and Connie Dedmond, had something to do with the disappearance of Asha Degree. Russell Underhill lived at an assisted living facility owned by the Dedmonds, and Roy Dedmond was actually listed as his emergency contact on medical records. The Dedmonds' home is only 6 minutes away from where Asha was last seen, and according to warrants, Roy used to make one of his underage daughters transport patients in an unreliable car. This revelation has taken Asha's case on a new trajectory. How did she get linked to the Dedmonds, especially Roy Dedmond, who was the headmaster at 12 Oaks School, which at the time was a segregated school for white-only students? And how did she get linked to Connie Dedmond, former president of the United Daughters of the Confederacy, Cleveland? I'll tell you more about the Dedmonds in part 2. Until then, be sure to comment, like, and subscribe to support the channel. I'm your host, Parke Jones, and I'll catch you on the next one.